Hi, my name is Cassidy Kramer, and today I'll be interviewing Michael Koontz, who is running for New Jersey State Senate. Later, we'll be speaking with Edward Durfee and Pearlie Patrick, who are running for Assembly. As you know, the Korean community accounts for a large portion of Bergen County's population, so we'd like to speak with the politicians who are running for this year's election. Good morning, and it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Could you please introduce yourself to our viewers?
Yeah, sure. It's Mike Koontz, and I'm the state Senate candidate for the 37th District.
Thank you for coming in today. Could you tell us briefly about your background, your family?
Background has been mostly an entrepreneur over the years. It's a lengthy background. I'm an architectural designer. Had a company since 1986. I'm kind of semi-retired now, but I'm also a screenwriter. Got a couple screenplays that are now up for production. We're looking to work with some fairly famous directors up in Vancouver, Canada, and we're pretty excited about that. We can discuss a little my political background if you'd like.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. So I'm battle-tested, meaning that I've been in the political fray for a long time. I ran for state Senate in '97 as an independent candidate, and then I jumped in and ran for the U.S. Congress in the 9th District. That was a district that was held at the time by Steve Rothman, and a good friend of mine, Steve Lonigan, and I, all three of us ran, but I was an independent again. Came back and ran for the state assembly, and then the freeholder in 2000, and then I was nominated by the New Jersey Conservative Party to run for governor, which was quite an interesting experience. I had to go through a convention, and I crisscrossed the state. I spoke at most of our colleges, from Rutgers to Rider's to Princeton to Ramapo State, which is my college that I graduated from and are very excited about all the time. It's a great school. So I've had a strong political background. Early on, I worked for the Ross Perot campaign. Later on, I worked for the Ron Paul campaign. And here I am back running as a state senator for the Republican Party, Bergen County.
That all sounds very great. Could you tell us a little bit about where you're from and where you reside now?
Yeah, I live in Hackensack right now. Originally, I came from the Northern Valley region, which was Hallworth. Very nice little hamlet up there. The family was up there for about 46 years. And then I migrated down, graduated from Northern Valley Regional High School up there. Great school.
Oh, that sounds great. So you've mentioned that you are a man of many hats, between design and business and TV production. Your background seems very varied. How did you shift into politics?
Well, it kind of relates. When you're doing a television show, which I did for 5 years, I spoke with many politicians and many government officials that I used to have on the show. So my interest had always been in government service or community service, coming up with solutions for individuals and for groups. And so it kind of blended. My writing skills also help there as well, and my business skills are perfect, because the business skills get you out there. Mostly everything in business, as you know, in any school you go to, so it's all sales.
What are the main messages for your campaign right now?
Well, the main message really comes down to liberty. Our country was founded on liberty, and I believe that in the community, especially in the 37th District, but all the districts, we need to empower people to become more self-productive, entrepreneurial, keep more of their money. This state happens to be 48th in a state of financial collapse. 48 out of 50, and I think we can do a lot better. And I'm not happy with the way the state's been governed. I specifically am not happy right now with the way this governor is governing, nor the Assembly, nor the state Senate. It seems to have shifted towards putting the burden on the hardworking class people in the state who have to pick up all of the expenses. And taxes keep going through the roof. It's been going on for 25 years. I'm going to fight very strong for if you go to our website, which is Contract with 37, I'll say it again, contractwith37.org. If you go to that, you'll see an area in that website that specifically focuses on property taxes. Our property taxes are through the roof. And it's an unfair burden for many sectors of our state because we have Abbott districts. Abbott districts were set up by the state. There are about close to 38 or 36 of them. And it was supposed to, because those areas were a little more low income, to bring the educational system up better. But they take basically from the rich and they're giving it to those districts. So a person in our area here pays an enormous amount of property tax say for a home in Upper Saddle River, Alpine, even in our District 37, where they don't pay as much in these Abbott districts. And developers have gone into these districts and are now gentrifying them. So what does that mean? They buy up an old brownstone, they put 4 townhouses in there, and they sell them for $1.2 million, but their property tax is only $8,000 or $10,000. The same property up here, your property taxes are in excess of $20,000 a year.
As someone who comes from a long line of government affiliates, how do you plan to stand out from past generations?
Well, I do come from a long line of history of people in my family that were very engaged in government and politics. You can go back to the Revolutionary War, where my great-great-great-grandfather was a courier for Washington. And there were many couriers then, but we traced him and used to bring those battle plans up to the front. You know, he was, I guess the English were shooting at him all the time. We were trying to get our liberty. But be that as it may, what I think that our group, our team is trying to do is open up that 37th District office so that people feel that they can be engaged. We're all good communicators. We're concerned about individuals. We're concerned about solutions. So anybody that walks through that door is going to get the attention they need to solve their problem. Because when they go back into the community, the problem that they have are the problems of other people. And we want to solve one problem and then have them say, hey, these guys are doing a great job. They handled it. They got to the right department that was able to get me a solution. So we're going to be solution orientated and communicators. We also have a great plan that's on our website, which is called Contract with the 37th. We have 2 great plans. I'll start with Contract with the 37th. That specifically is focused on business. So what does that mean in the 37th District? 37th District is an unusual district. It's a great district because it has a tremendous amount of demographics. You have a great population of African Americans, you've got a great population of Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, white Americans, all living together and working together as a community. But they could do better with jobs. There are 4 towns there where people are living below the poverty level. In Hackensack alone, it's up to 14%. This should not be happening. And I'm going to keep in mind that a lot of this is happening, and it's been happening under democratic rule. I hate to get into nonpartisan partisan, but it's true. We've got to raise that up and get those people employed and engaged in some way or another. So we have Contract with Commerce, and Contract with Commerce is basically a program where we're going to use our office to communicate to the local businesses, retailers, small corporations, manufacturing, to find out what jobs are available. We can bring them back to the office, put them into a program, put them into our computer, and we can invite people down and say, hey, we spoke to the supervisor over at Targets. There are 4 new jobs open. 1 is a supervisory job, 1 is a department manager's job, 1 or 2 clerks. Wow, I'm looking for a department manager's job. That's terrific. Could you hook me up? Sure. We'll call the supervisor and go over and get yourself an interview. We're also going to encourage other businesses to come into the community, relocate, you know, possibly buy some real estate, open up some buildings, offices, or take on offices that are existing. We're trying to enhance the 37th District to make it a better place.
And you mentioned another plan that you have in place?
Yeah, yes, we have Diversity to Excellence. Now, the word diversity, I just want to go over this. I've had no problem with it. It seems like the other side has used the word diversity more than the Republican side. But I'm using it in the framework of what it's supposed to be meant. All men are created equal, all people are equal, and we should get away from this situation where we're separating, putting people into different categories and pockets. So Diversity for Excellence is breaking down each municipality and getting representation from every demographic. So for example, Hackensack, Teaneck, Englewood, Bogota, I can go on and on. We have Rockley, which is very small. Englewood Cliffs, we have Bogota, we have 13 different municipalities. From those municipalities, we'll bring forward people who are African American people, Asian American people, white people, Hispanic people, people from all varieties of backgrounds, all varieties of sectors, and we'll put them together as a group. There'll be a volunteer group, and every 3 months we will meet from one person from that group and ask them, what are the issues surrounding your group in your own town? How can we solve a problem? Is there issues sounding around the Black American community? Is there an issue surrounding the Asian American community? And we'll take that feedback very seriously and speak to the mayor, speak to the councils, and try to come up with a solution. We're going to be very proactive.
Great. How do you plan to encourage the inclusivity of Asian Americans within Bergen County?
Asian Americans have actually grown tremendously. So I believe that some of our programs that we have that we're going to put forward will include them. And I also believe that their representation in their own municipalities and in the district itself are important. So what does that mean? That means that they have to create a focus group in each town that appoints a leader that then can relate issues to our office. Then we can go and discuss that with the town leaders to come up with those solutions. I think it comes from within inside. All the other opportunities that Asian Americans would have are similar to the opportunities that everyone has. Basically, in our country, it's a merit system. If you do well, if you strive to get a profession and move yourself forward, you're going to do fantastic in this country. There's no other country like it. So again, the inclusiveness is also going to come from the community itself. All the opportunities will be there on an equal level.
As a longtime resident of Bergen County, I'm sure you know that Korean Americans make up a good portion of the town here.
Sure.
Over the years, how have you seen a change?
I've seen the expansion of the Asian community. Originally up where I came from, Northern Valley, and I graduated up there at that time, there were very few. But over the years, the feedback I got from the Northern Valley region is now, as you know, Closter, and obviously Palisade Park has got a huge Asian community. So the expansion of people coming into Bergen County has grown tremendously.
While we're on the topic of diversity, do you believe the New Jersey State Senate to be diverse currently?
It's fairly diverse. I think it may be more inclusive than it is, but I believe that over the period of time, the last 8 years, it's grown in diversity, yes.
And do you believe that going forward it will continue to diversify?
I think it's natural. It's a natural. As the population changes, you're going to have more representation from different groups.
Yes, and that is what we hope for.
Yep.
So Asian hate has been a very large issue as of recently, unfortunately, and since the start of COVID even. Going forward, how do you plan on dealing with this type of hate?
It's a difficult topic. I have different varied views about this. I think that over the last year it's become a political narrative, and I'm strongly behind that concept. I have quite a few friends and individuals that are of Korean background. I really have not personally heard of any hate crimes, especially in our area, that were against the Asian community, personally. But I've heard about rhetoric surrounding it. Now, there may have been others. We saw a few things happen in New York City, which has got over 8 million people. But some of those occurred because they were outbursts from homeless people, people that were incorrigible. And there's always going to be outliers that are going to take a scenario and then act on it. However, be that as it may, I'm very strongly against any kind of hate crime or any crimes associated with diversity or individuals from different backgrounds. It doesn't matter whether it's with the Jewish community, with the Asian community, with the Hispanic community. It has to be dealt with as criminality. And I would suggest, especially since it emanates from individual municipalities, that they have to really work a system and be in communication with their law enforcement department and make sure that if there is anything at all that they feel is happening in their community regarding their businesses, on the street, any kind of physical contact that would be considered criminal, that they report it immediately and an investigation be done. So as far as I'm concerned, hate has no place in our society whatsoever.
That's great to hear, and we hope that that shows going forward. Many Asian Americans with small businesses have been affected because of the effects of COVID. How is the New Jersey government planning to help that, and what advice would you give them?
Well, the New Jersey government, the way I see it, has been a flop. It's been a failure. Okay. I haven't seen the resources that are necessary to go to those small mom and pop businesses. We've lost about since COVID because of the shutdowns, which I was against these shutdowns. I felt up to a certain point until they analyzed what needed to be done with this virus, which they came up with their masks and with vaccines and with social distancing. I felt that the owners of these businesses could take on the responsibility of putting their own regulations of their own stores, their businesses, the monies they've invested. Some of these individuals have invested over $200,000 in these businesses. And to a guy that has a lot of money, a millionaire or someone who's a billionaire, that's a little money. But to them, it's all that money. It is $1 million bucks to them. And a lot of these businesses have fallen to the wayside because we have a governor, we have a legislature who imposed certain regulations that forced these businesses to close down. As far as the support, I think it has to also come from the community. The government has to provide a modicum of help to help these businesses get back on their feet if it's feasible. And then from there, those business owners have to step in and reorganize. But we have to stop the shutdowns. They're oppressive to our business community and the free enterprise system. And this is basically directed at the sitting governor, the Democratic legislature that we have in Trenton.
That's great. We hope to hear some more support for these small businesses and helping them get back on their feet.
Absolutely.
They're really the backbone of Bergen County.
Backbone of the country.
That's right. So it's known that you don't agree with New Jersey's current taxing system, taxing methods. If elected, what steps do you plan on taking to change that?
Well, this is my area that I focus on most, is taxation. And I say this at every meeting I go to or every seminar. We have probably the highest taxes across this country. We're 48th out of 50 states. It's oppressive. And I really think the government almost acts delusional. I mean, we were fighting taxes with the New Jersey Conservative Party back in the mid-90s through the 2000s. Income taxes have gone up. Sales taxes have gone up. Very few people know that we have about 45 to 50 unforeseen taxes on goods and services that are surcharges that we don't even know about. When you buy something in a store, some of that tax money goes right to the state. Very few people are aware that all these taxes are going on. The more money that's taken out of your pocket, my pocket, and everyone's pocket, keeps them down. It keeps them not in charge of their own life and their ability to use those resources that they're working hard for. Don't forget, as I said, it's a merit system. So we have to bring our tax structure down. We have to have more money, available money for the working class in this country and for everything. We can't keep adding taxes as a burden for expenses that the government's making. Another issue is we have about, I don't know what, 65,000 government workers. We need to trim that down, make it more streamlined, save some of that revenue, and put it into initiatives in the state where it would benefit, including into property taxes, and I'll hit that one right away. Our property taxes are through the roof, as I said earlier in the first question. They're exorbitant, they're going up, and most of that money goes down to Trenton. And then where it goes into a variety of different expenses and bills across the state that people are not aware of. And people keep paying the property taxes, so they have no recourse. So I'm going to address the Abbott district so we can get some fair balance. We call it averaging. So our property taxes become average. Also, if we start to save money in the state budget, we can take some of those resources and that revenue and expand the rebate program. So you're not getting either not a check or $500. I'd like to expand it from those savings to $1,000 to maybe $2,000, depending upon what your property tax is. And that would encourage people to stay in their home. As you may know, migration out of the state is huge. It's the biggest in the country. Out of 100% of the people who live in this state, who are homeowners, when they move, 80% of them move out of state. That shouldn't be happening. That should be unheard of. And our governor defiantly said, look, if you don't like the tax rate, get out of the state. I mean, who talks that way? What governor speaks to their own populace and is backed by their own assembly and state senate for talking that way? No, that's not what you do. You address the issue. Get those property taxes in order so the senior citizens who are hit the hardest, and we have a program also called 35% reduction in property taxes by age of 72. Seniors want to stay in those homes. They're used to their communities. They've worked very hard. They've raised families. Families have gone on to raise other families. And they want to stay, some of them want to stay in those homes that they're used to. And they should. But we believe, or I believe, that we put together a program where by 72 years old, whatever your property tax is, it's 35% and then it's frozen. That gives them an opportunity to retire. Some are retiring on small pensions. So I think also seniors have been overlooked.
Yes, and it sounds like you're very passionate about this topic, and that's great to hear.
Very much.
Are there any issues being discussed that our viewers should be aware of?
There's a load of issues. As I said, you can go to our website. I'm going to say it again. It's contractwiththe37th.org, contractwiththe37th.org. I suggest everyone go to that because that's going to show you all of our policies. And we use Contract with the 37th because we kind of took it from the Newt Gingrich days of the 90s when they did Contract with America. So it's the same concept. We're willing to lay these out and intellectually sign off on them and be sure that we fulfill them. There's one issue that's a hot topic today, and that's critical race theory, big time. If you go to many of the local Board of Educations, you're finding them filled with people today, where before you might find 6 or 7 or 8 people at these Board of Education meetings. So I'm of the belief that this is the wrong direction to go to in teaching our kids. I think that our history in the United States and the way that we view race should be in the hands of the parents. I think parents should have an input in teaching their kids what history is, not having consultants hired by Board of Educations, which is another tax burden, to determine what kind of education our kids should learn about our history, or tell kids that they are systemically racist, which I don't believe in. I don't believe in systemic racism. I don't believe that's how our country was founded in 1776. I believe it was founded on the sense that all men are created equal. And of course, further on, if you go to the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, which was under a Republican president, one of our greatest, Abraham Lincoln, you would see that we've already stepped forward long ago in terms of racism and making all men and women created equal. So that's a hot topic that's coming up. I do not believe it should stay in the hands of the educators. I think it should be in the hands of the parents. Now, there was one suggestion I made at a Board of Education meeting was that if you wanted to have an elective put together in a school, like a high school, I assume a high school, that's fine. If you want to go into history of the demographics of men or women in the U.S. I'm coming up with something here spontaneously. Or discuss race in that. Let the kids sign up for it. If they're so interested in that, finding out more about race in our country, how it unfolded from the time of the early days when unfortunately we did have slaves in our country because our economy was totally different. One half of the country depended upon that for agricultural reasons, another was the manufacturing part. Of course, we couldn't live with that in our country. I'm totally against that. But the fact is that also had to do with a period of history. That's fine. Create an elective in the high schools, lay out the elective, and individual students that are interested take that elective, learn more about it. But those that don't choose to, who do their own self-studying about the history of America, should not be required by the Board of Education or by a curriculum to study issues that may be prejudiced in the sense that they feel as though they have a racist background. I don't want my kid or someone else's kid to think they grew up as racists. They may not. I never felt that way. I worked hand in hand with African Americans when I was growing up. When I was in college, I worked 9 years in the grocery business, and although this is a story that I'm going off on, I think it's important. And 4 or 5 of my coworkers were African American. We sweat together, we rubbed shoulders together, we ate together, we went to concerts together, and I never felt uncomfortable about working with African Americans. They had my back, I had their back.
Great, and that's definitely something for our viewers to think about as they, get ready to vote this year.
Sure.
It's been so great to have you here. Thank you for coming in. Are there any final words that you'd like to tell our viewers before you head out today?
Well, you've done a splendid job, and I'm really happy to be here today. This is also a lot of fun. I only hope that the viewers who are watching This is also directed directly at the Asian American community. Again, I'm going to mention our website, contractwith37.org. Please, I can say so much here, but what I will tell you is that simply we will have your back. In other words, if we're elected and you can send us to Trenton, you will know that that door, that office in the 37th district will be open for each individual to come in with a specific issue, and you will get results. We're going to be a proactive team. The term progressive is moved around a lot, but progressive really doesn't mean anything when you break it down. It's proactive. So thanks very much for watching this when you do, and please vote for Koontz, Durfee, and Patrick on November 2nd. Thanks very much. And thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot.